Hey guys, how's it going? It's Calvin Raab, and I hope you're having an amazing day today. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the difficulty that comes with an economics major, and is it really all that difficult? So I am a senior at UCLA studying economics, and in this video I really wanted to talk about how difficult is it really, because I feel like there's this understanding out there that economics is very, very, very difficult, and I really wanted to kind of talk out my thoughts on it. So this is how the video is going to go. I'm going to start by giving it a score, which is a score out of 100 of the difficulty level that I think it is. Then I'm going to go into what makes econ difficult, its difficult sections. Specifically, I'm going to be focused on the math, because most people, when they talk about econ, the math is what they're most worried about. And I'm going to talk about how difficult is that math, because there are some misconceptions about it, and I think you'll be a little surprised with what I'm gonna have to say there. And then I'm gonna close it out talking about the non-math portions of econ and how difficult that is. And hopefully by the end of this video, you have a pretty good understanding of how difficult economics is as a major, at least from, of course, my perspective. Different people are gonna have different perspectives, but I hope to try to be as unbiased as possible in giving this explanation. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Quick disclosure, this is all my personal opinion. Some people may think that econ is the hardest thing in the world, while others may think that it's a breeze. It also changes from school to school. UCLA is known as being a pretty hard economics program, so that may have played a pretty big role in my understanding of econ, but other people may have different opinions, and it just matters who you are as a student, so please take this all as an opinion. I'm going to try to step back and get out of my UCLA role and look at economics as a whole, but please take everything as my own personal opinion. All right, now we can get into it. All right, so let me kick it off with the score out of 100. So this would be 0 being the easiest, 100 being the hardest. So to put that into context, 0 would be a class, all your classes you walk into, and just by showing up, by breathing, you get an A and you pass. I actually do not know a single major that is quite that easy. And then on the flip side, 100 would be it is absolutely impossible to pass. No one can possibly graduate with this major. Again, I actually know some classes like that, but I don't know a whole major like that. And 50 would be kind of right in the middle, where it's not going to keep you up all night, but you are working pretty hard, and many would say that it is fairly difficult. That's kind of right in the middle. So where do I put economics? Well, I put economics at an 80. Alright, so 80 out of 100, what does that mean? What is this mythical 80 out of 100 as far as difficulty goes? What does that really mean? Well, to me, it means that economics is hard, but it is not impossible. So get ready, you're going to have to study a lot as an economics major, and you are going to have to study usually more than similar majors or majors that are kind of in the same school as you. So economics is a social science, and in my experience, on average, economics majors study more than really any other social science. At least that's from what I have seen. I could totally be wrong. But that's what I have seen, and you are going to feel a lot like a STEM major. And at some schools, actually, they've made the switch to calling econ a STEM major. UCLA actually kind of made that switch. So you will have to study a lot, and you're going to feel like a STEM major, because STEM majors, on average, generally probably spend more time studying. And you're just going to feel like that. You're not going to feel like a normal social science major as far as the hours that you're putting into just purely studying material. Alright, so what makes economics so difficult? Well, if you ask any econ student or any future econ student, most likely they're going to say the math. The math is always what's brought up whenever I say I'm an economics major. People are like, oh man, I could not do that math. So that's what I want to talk about, because the math is one of the hardest parts if you're not that great at math, but I don't know if this is like the best kept secret in all of economics as far as economics majors. I don't even know if I'm supposed to share this, but the deep secret is the math is actually not that bad. Now, of course, I do have to preface that by saying that I'm someone who really enjoys math. I really, really enjoy calculus. I really enjoy solving the problems. It really comes easily to me, and it's just something that I'm good at. But that being said, I've talked to a lot of my friends who are economics majors whose math doesn't come that easily for them, and they still agree that it's not too bad. So what does the math actually look like? Well, For most colleges and most economics courses, you're going to really just need to know calculus 1 and calculus 2 with a little bit of multivariable. I've never actually taken a true multivariable course, although I did kind of have to teach myself a little bit of multivariable calculus for one of the classes I took, and all I really had to know was just using the Lagrangian method, so it wasn't that difficult. But mainly what you're going to be doing is just dealing with Calc 1 and Calc 2 stuff, as far as derivatives and integrals and just essentially a lot of that. So I now want to go into, if the concepts itself are not that difficult, why is the math hard? Why is econ hard? What makes it so difficult? So now that we've talked about the math, I can really get into what makes econ so difficult. If it truly was just integrals and derivatives, I would have given this like a 20 or a 30, because integrals and derivatives, for anyone that really know them, are pretty simple. What makes econ hard? Well, it just has to do with the breadth of information, how much you learn each class. It's so much, it's unbelievable. And maybe this is something that's specific to UCLA being on the quarter system, but I think this is a pretty big generality with a lot of econ courses, is you just learn so much. Now, that's true with a lot of other courses. Why is econ unique? Well, you learn a lot as far as the math goes, and each problem you do in a lot of courses can take up to 30 or 40 steps. So one problem can easily take you 20 minutes to solve, if not more. You are just doing so much. I oftentimes will have a page or two filled with math, and it's just to solve one problem. So what gets difficult is, if you look at it and you look at each step, that's not hard. So maybe I'm just taking the derivative. Maybe I'm just checking the second and third derivative to see what this may do on a graph or something like that. So if you take each step, it's not hard. What's hard is remembering all these steps, because you will have multiple different problems that you have to solve that each take 20 to 25 minutes long, and you'll have pages of work. And it is so hard to try to remember everything that you have to do, because everything's a little different, and they're by no reason or by any means easy questions. I mean, these are difficult questions, but if you look at each step, if you really walk through it, it's not bad. And something that is kind of a little secret, it's not a secret at all, but something that's really helped me is I create mind maps to try to remember all this and just explicitly say, this is the first step, this is the second step. Let me actually show you. So I took Econ 11, which is actually one of the hardest courses I've taken, and you can see this mind map that I've created here on my iPad. So each of these go over the steps in how to create something. So I start with a concept, and then I break down and I go into deeper concepts, and I go down. And you can see each of these, I mean, if we just keep going down, this one in itself, this one step I'm calling it, has 9 steps with 4 other possibilities. These are all different equations that then break off of that. I mean, here's 12 steps here if you want to solve for different things within the problem. And you have to memorize all this. And each of this is a little different. There's a little bit of multivariable calculus in here. Remembering everything that's in here, you have to memorize. So really not enough people talk about this, but econ is a lot of memorization. As much as I dislike memorization, I mean, I don't try to memorize it. I try to really understand it, and that helps me memorize it. But the hard part is not the math. I usually don't struggle with that. What's hard is when they bring in a whole bunch of new concepts, as far as, if you look at one of my works in econ, or one of my works of econ, it sounds like it's a masterpiece. Now, if you look at one of my problems in econ, it will look absurd. It will have every letter in the alphabet, tons of Greek signs and everything. But if I actually walked you through it, it wouldn't be that bad. But trying to remember all that and understand it as a high level is hard. So that's another thing that makes econ hard. Oftentimes, the people that I know that have dropped out of econ, their reason has been, I didn't have an econ mind. I couldn't see it. And that's something that I totally understand, and that is difficult. Because if you're just trying to memorize this stuff and say, all right, sigma is doing this in this problem, and all this Greek lettering, all of these alphabetical lettering representing these things, if you just try to memorize it, but you can't see it and step back and really understand and visualize it, and I'm I don't know if I'm unique or not, I don't think I am, but I'm very good at visualizing calculus, so I can really visualize these problems. So that is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. If you can't visualize what you're doing, they really, really struggle. So what makes econ so hard? Essentially, the breadth of information and trying to remember everything and keep it all sorted in your head and get it a good visualization. And for me, because I am a visual learner, I have to write it all down. But as I said, one of the best kept secrets in econ is that the math is not that bad. And there's a couple things, maybe it varies a little, and when I got into multivariable, it got a little tricky, but this is nothing compared to what a math major would be doing as far as like linear algebra and anything like that. And it can't even compare to that. If you compare it to even STEM majors, what my friends are doing in engineering far surpasses what we're doing as far as math. So are you gonna have more math than a social science major? Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a lot more calculus than an English major, but it's nothing compared to what math majors or engineering majors are going to be doing. It's just a lot of info that really takes a lot of brain power to sort in your head, and what makes it difficult is it's so reliant on the professor. And if a professor cannot teach this well, you can see how it's 40 steps. If they do a poor job of that, you can feel unbelievably lost, and it is so, so frustrating. But if you really lay it out, it's not that bad. Okay, so I had to talk about that. I had to talk about the math, but math isn't the only thing in econ. So how difficult is the rest of kind of non-math econ? Well, my response to that would really be, how good are you with graphs? Because that plays a large role in the rest of economics. And yeah, I know math goes into graphs, of course, and math comes out of graphs, as we've seen in a lot of calculus, and kind of the nature of derivatives and different things like that all spawn from graphs. However, as far as reading graphs and understanding it, this goes with kind of that economic mind. And don't worry if you are not good at reading graphs. You'll kind of learn and become better at it. You know, I was by no means good at this. I remember back in high school, I used to really struggle with, you know, understanding a graph right away and understanding what it was. And I knew this because when I was studying for the ACT and they had the science section, I really struggled with, you know, understanding everything quickly. While all my like engineering friends just flew through that, and a lot of my friends got 36s on that section, it took me longer. And of course it just comes with practice, and as I've done more econ, now I can look at a whole bunch of graphs and I can see them moving, how they correspond with one another, so it just takes practice. So that's just something that I would say you may want to work on or just look at, and honestly, you can just do a lot of research looking at the Wall Street Journal. They have a lot of graphs, and you'll eventually learn, so don't worry too much about it. Nothing here is impossible. So that will wrap it up. Ultimately, I do think econ is a hard major. I think my barometer for what is hard is kind of interesting. Essentially, the way I view something hard is if you study your butt off for a certain class and you can still fail. So that happens all the time in econ. I know friends that will study 100 hours for a final exam and they can still fail. And for me, that makes a class hard. I think there's a lot of other classes and other majors, you know, if you have a final paper or something and you put 100 hours into it, you're probably not going to fail, even if you're not that good of a writer. But econ is fairly unique, along with a lot of STEM majors, that you can study your butt off, you can study so hard, but you can still fail. So for me, that makes me think econ's a little bit harder than some of the other common majors. So that will kind of wrap it up. I hope that was a decent job at explaining the difficulty of it. It's really hard to explain because it's different for everyone. You know, I have friends that I will tutor that think econ is very, very, very difficult. And I know other people who I've met through my courses here, and especially UCLA. UCLA has got some smart kiddos here that it just clicks, and they blow me away with how well they can understand, comprehend everything. In one lecture, they can just see it all, and they're explaining it to me on a whiteboard, and it's truly magnificent. Brilliant econ people are unbelievably just how they can think is so fascinating to me, and I'm lucky enough to go to a school where there are a lot of bright econ students, so I think that has helped me kind of encourage me to continue, and I really enjoy, just seeing how a lot of these kids think. So that will wrap it up. If you have any questions about econ, please let me know in the comments below. It's hard for me to touch on everything that everyone wants, but if you have any questions at all, I'm going to try to be as honest as possible. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If you have any recommendations, or if you think something's totally wrong in here, please let me know as well. You could have a totally different idea of how econ goes. You can say I'm too biased because of the rigors of my school or something like that. Just let me know down below. I look forward to talking to you guys down there. But that will wrap it up. If you're new here, my name is Calvin Raab, and I make videos all about personal finance. So if you're interested in anything like that, I would love it if you would subscribe. But that will wrap it up for now. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I would love if you would subscribe if you're interested in more content, and like this video so YouTube knows that, hey, it might be helpful, and they'll share it with more people. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And as always, my name is Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. So I'm going to move to the corner of your screen here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see my most recent video. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a video that YouTube and I each think that you would like. And if you haven't yet, you can hit my face right here and subscribe. As always, my name is Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon.